Welcome to all of you. It is so good to see your faces again, but I cannot believe that we are now going into our third year of this pandemic. I hope you've all been okay. Can I see a show of hands as to who's actually had COVID at this point? Beth, oh, I hope I hope it wasn't too much for you. I'm glad you're with us tonight. Did you all get vaccinated? Can I see a show of hands? Who got the vaccine? And boosted? Jill, why do I see you shaking your head no? You are a nurse. Why did you say no?
I am not a nurse. I am in the healthcare field, but I didn't
I'm
do
sorry,
it.
you're in the healthcare field. Why did you say no?
I just felt like, you have a choice. And my choice was to not do it. And I'm not anti-vax, I'm not against it at all. I just did, for some reason, I just didn't trust this and I didn't want to do it. So I didn't. And I've been okay.
But is there anything that could persuade you at this point?
Sure.
What are you waiting for?
If the job that I have, if they make it mandatory, I'm all in. They've offered money and other things, but I guess maybe if the price goes up, I might do it. So.
You're waiting for a better offer?
Better offer.
Or you're shaking your head yes. You were initially not so sure about the vaccine. Where are you now?
I just did it because I'm a public school educator and I'm around kids all day long, and I'm at an alternative campus and some of my kids live a little vicariously. So I just wanted to protect myself, my family more. I'm fine, but I don't want to come home and infect my children, my wife, so I just went and got the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell Jill to tell her whether to go ahead with it?
I tell Jill, you're making the right decision. You stick with your convictions and
really
you do what you feel is best. I wouldn't have done it if I was a single male and I didn't live with anybody. I wouldn't have worried about it because I take care of myself. I have a good diet. I take my vitamins, and I would have been fine with it. The only reason I did it, I have a son who's in theater, and I don't want to jeopardize his parts in the play, and he's very active right now. He's at practice, and then I have a wife. So I did it for them, not for me.
Sandy, I understand you are also still unvaccinated. Why are you holding out?
I still don't think the science is there. It's just, you see all these studies where even people who are vaccinated still end up getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a study out of Israel where they said that even after the 2 boosters, that's 4 shots total, people are still getting sick. So to me, it doesn't make sense. I'd rather just get it naturally if I do get it and get over it and get immunity from it that way.
But the vaccine, it prevents you from being hospitalized in severe illness, but it doesn't stop you from getting it. It doesn't stop you from spreading it, but it lessens the pain. Why would you not want to make it less painful for yourself?
I'll take it as it rolls.
But I mean, to that point of concern for the people around you, as Jorge said, that was what changed it for him. How do you handle that, Sandy? Because I know when we spoke last, you were talking about, you didn't like masks, but you wore one around your family members because you were fearful of infecting them.
Correct. And actually, that's been proven to be ineffective as well. I think I have a great immune system.
Masks are effective at preventing spread. Nothing's bulletproof here.
Right.
But you're not concerned, or that's not persuading you in terms of your family members, you said?
Oh, not at all. We all have excellent immune systems. We eat like a great diet, whatnot. We exercise. So we're pretty strong. If we do get sick, we're going to get sick. As far as my elderly family, mm-hmm. It's different around now. I do still use my mask when I'm around my elderly part of my family. But as far as my own family, I don't think we have anything to worry about.
Are your elderly family members vaccinated?
No, no, they're not.
Really? So this is a deeply held belief for you and for Jill. Sounds
I
like.
wouldn't say so. It's just something that everybody has to make a decision for themselves. It's just, yeah, it does remedy as far as how sick you'll get. You won't be hospitalized, that thing. Uh, but I just soon roll the dice at home and get sick at home if I do get sick.
So Jill, it's interesting you said a vaccine mandate by your employer would change your mind.
Yeah, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not against it. It's just that I wanted to have a choice with this, and they've allowed me to, have that choice. And because I've remained healthy, they don't bother me about it.
So where do you all feel in terms of where we are in this pandemic? Who feels like we are in a better place now than we were a year ago? Show of hands. No one believes we're in a better spot now.
It's mixed, unfortunately. I don't think that our public servants are actually, they're kind of on a lag with the science and where we all are. I know you just asked everybody about, whether or not they had COVID or they're vaxxed or not. I was not vaxxed, had COVID. I didn't even know I had it. I had the sniffles for 2 days and body aches. And if I hadn't lost my sense of smell, I wouldn't have known the difference. So, kudos to everybody who talks about good, healthy immune system, exercising every day and everything. I mean, it's an individual thing, but it's clearly not as horrible as perhaps it was described. For some, it has been, and I'm very sorry for that. But for a lot of us who do take care of ourselves and everything and are younger, we need to go in and live our lives. And public science has not caught up with that yet.
Mm-hmm. How many people know someone who has died from COVID or been hospitalized with COVID? So Mildred, you raised your hand there. Do you have a different perspective when you hear the descriptions of saying it's not that bad?
I can't really say that it's not that bad. I think it is bad. I think this whole country is suffering from COVID fatigue at this point. It has become confusing and depressing.
Yeah.
The people that I know who have died have been elderly individuals. I'm an elderly person myself and a cancer survivor. And that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and took the vaccine and the booster, also to protect other family members. I think this country has done a very poor job regarding this whole COVID thing. Does that answer your question, Margaret?
It does, but it makes me want to know more. You originally told us a year or so ago that you didn't want to be a guinea pig. You had concern about taking the vaccine. What changed your mind?
A lot of my friends who had gone ahead and taken the vaccine, and I saw where they had done well. And I want to be around, there's never any guarantee, but I want to be around to see my grandkids, my granddaughter get married, my grandson get married, and hopefully and prayerfully see my great grandkids. So I went ahead and took the vaccine. So
why don't you think, now that you have that tool in your disposal, why don't you think we're in a better place?
I didn't say we're in a better place. I don't know if we are in a better place as a country. We're still very divided on this whole COVID thing.
Jill, Jill wants to jump in here. Go ahead, Jill.
I was of the opinion that when people got vaccinated, they would let their guard down. They would go out and congregate. And I'm a football fan, and it makes my skin crawl when I watch the games and I see so many people together, because that's exactly what it did. They got vaccinated. They thought, we're fine. We can go out and do all the things we normally do. And that's the dangerous part. Now, I'm unvaccinated, but I wouldn't dream of not wearing a mask. I wouldn't dream of pumping gas and not wearing gloves. I'm a germaphobe anyway, so it just kind of works for me. And I like to social distance. So once again, it works for me, but the things that I see going on in America, it makes my skin crawl because people think we're out of the woods and we're not. And that's why we're going to keep having mutation after mutation. And we're not going to be able to get out of this like we should because you got a vaccine and people are letting their guards down. I mean, not that the vaccine is a bad thing, but I just think it gave people a sense of security that's really not there.
Right. So when you hear President Biden and the Biden administration say this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, Jill, do you feel like he's talking about you?
Not at all. Not at all, because I work with someone who's vaccinated and has had the booster and they've had COVID 3 times. So I'm not buying that. If I saw it and, I just saw everybody because even here in Houston, there's a big thing going on with one of our doctors because they're not telling you the truth. They're trying to make you think everybody hospitalized is unvaccinated, and it's just not true. So no, I respect his opinion, but no, I don't feel like he's talking to me at all.
Jorge, you are nodding your head in full agreement with Jill.
Oh, 100%. I think that's part of the problem that we've had is the misinformation, not following the science. Even you said masks are effective. Well, actually, studies have already shown that cloth masks are not effective at all.
That's right. The quality of your mask. The quality of your
not
mask
at
matters a
all.
lot.
The quality of the mask, and they didn't say that at first. They said, "Oh, just wear a mask and you'll be fine." So I think when your leader is saying one thing and then it's not true, you begin to question that. When before the election, both Biden and Harris said, well, I wouldn't trust a vaccine from Mr. Trump or whatever they would call him, not nice. And then now they're trying to tell everybody needs to get, and then they're trashing the unvaccinated, which they want to say are the Trumpers, and that's not true. People that don't want to get vaccinated have their own reasons, and I don't think it has anything to do with President Trump, former President Trump. It just means they chose not to get vaccinated. So you can't play from both sides of the field and expect people to trust what you're going to say when study after study come out refuting the things that they keep telling us.
And to your point, former President Trump has gotten vaccinated and boosted, he says. So he has now endorsed it. But Chelsea, jump in here. We haven't heard from you. How are you feeling? Are you feeling more confident these days?
No, not really. I am not super worried about getting sick because I think that I'm young and I know that the risks aren't super bad for people my age, but I still don't want to get sick. I think it's an inconvenience. I have to work, I have to go to school. And so, yeah, I'm still worried about getting sick. I'm fully vaxxed. I got my booster. I wear my mask. But I agree, the messaging has been really confusing. And I don't blame people at all who haven't gotten vaccinated because the story was the pandemic will be over. But the truth of the matter is people do still get sick even though they're vaccinated. So that's why I think mask wearing should be way more emphasized with the proper masks that we are provided, which finally is happening. But I think that the messaging has been very mixed. And so I don't think things have gotten better. I think that things are just as bad as they were when the pandemic started.
Who do you blame for that? Is it the CDC and the health agencies? Is it the president? I mean, whose fault is that in your view?
I think that they're all at fault. It's just been so unclear, and I understand what people mean when they say the science keeps changing, or that's just how research works. That's how science works. New things will be discovered over time. Once we know more about the pandemic and the virus, recommendations are going to change. That's just how it is. But when you have people who don't trust the government, when you have people that don't trust the CDC or either administration, I think that the administration is doing itself a disservice.
You're a student, so you are going back into the classroom, right?
Yeah, I'm a university student. So this year we were back in person fully.
And how has that changed things for you? I mean, are you confident or are you concerned when you walk into that classroom?
I'm definitely concerned. So I also teach. I'm basically a TA, and I moved my class online for the first 3 weeks of the semester because I knew at some point either half of my class would be gone because they're sick, or I might get sick. So, I took the safe route. My other classes are in person, but they're really small. The class I teach is 30 people in a 30-person capacity room. So I didn't want to take my chances, and I didn't want my students to all get each other sick either.
Mm-hmm. And Jorge, you were saying walking into the classroom, you were concerned as a teacher about getting exposed. I mean, do you feel like the safety guidelines for classrooms are clearly communicated?
In Texas, we are. We don't wear masks. You don't have to get a vaccine. You can get a vaccine if you want. It's you take care of yourself. And that's how it should be. You have got to have your own personal convictions and you follow them. If you choose not to get vaccinated, then you're choosing to live with those consequences. If I get sick, I get sick, kind of like a gentleman was saying. And our kids, and it's the same time, just like my son, he'll wear a mask often. And I don't sit there and tell him, what are you doing wearing a mask? That's what he feels. It makes him feel safe. And just like kids at school, you have, I don't know, let's say out of 100 kids, there may be 10 that wear a mask and nobody bothers them, and that they feel safe, and that's what they need to do. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Jill, you said something interesting earlier. You said something about the virus will continue to mutate in the unvaccinated.
I can say in the unvaccinated, it's just going to continue to mutate because,
Right.
especially here in Houston, we have lots of refugees. We have people that are continuing to travel. So you're going to places and then you're bringing things. But I'm just seeing so much because I work around so much. And you would think, well, why don't you just get vaccinated? I just still feel like the things that I've done thus far, it's protected me and I've not gotten sick. And if I do, that's something I have to live with. But just right now, I just feel like I have a choice, and my choice is just to not do it, So,
Mhm.
but I just don't feel like, we're taking enough precautions. The science does keep changing. The CDC, I mean, they're doing the best that they can, but they're learning as they go. But like if someone came to me and told me I had to have 4 shots for the flu, I would tell them, no way. And what we're doing now is they're just adding booster after booster, and now we need
Right.
to do this and do that. And it's exhausting. It is totally exhausting.
Can I see a show of hands? How many people get a flu shot every year? Just Jorge. Wow. I'm surprised at that. And Jill, where you work in a healthcare setting, they don't mandate it either?
Because I can wear a mask. My option is I can get a flu shot or I can wear a mask. I'd rather wear a mask. I could wear a mask to the day I take my last breath and I'd be perfectly fine because it's what I do for my job anyway.
Right. Interesting. For all of you, we are a year into the Biden presidency. We are a year into unified Democratic control of the House, of the Senate, of the executive branch. Do you feel any differently? Do you feel that Washington understands what all of you are experiencing out there? Beth is shaking her head no. I mean, so many of you are. But have you always felt that way? Or is there a new level of sort of skepticism about Washington?
Yeah, I think so. I really had such high hopes for this administration when they came in. And it's just been one disaster after another, from illegal immigration. I mean, where I live, we've had nighttime flights coming into our state, unaccompanied minors under the age of 26 that murder people, Afghanistan, inflation, take your pick. It's the killing of jobs with executive orders that were extremely high paying jobs in the oil and gas industry. I just don't understand. I thought this was going to be a president for the people, of the people. And I just feel like it's one, hurdle after another that we all have to climb.
Mm-hmm. You know, Betsy,
Margaret, let me just say that I am
there's
more
Mildred.
comfortable with what I have now than what I was faced with previously.
Mildred, you are a Democrat and you did vote for President Biden. I understand Beth is not a Democrat. It has that partisan shift. Is that what changed for you, that it's a Democrat in office now, not a Republican?
The previous administration is what changed me, not necessarily the actual party itself, because I know everybody that's in the Republican Party, everybody's not the same. But that administration and that leader, I did not trust, and I had a problem with.
If I may say, I am not a Republican. I'm an independent. I have voted for as many Democrats as I have Republicans in both national and state and local races. I am 100% a person who is about the issues and really looks for someone who is going to care for us as the citizens of our county, city, state, and country.
Chelsea, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something similar to Beth, but kind of with a completely different reason. I do agree that fundamentally for me, nothing has changed. I think that I am more skeptical now. I was not really involved in politics or like a fan of politics until 2016. And that kind of got me interested in, being more active. And I was hopeful that the Biden administration would, make my life better. But it's been so clear that it hasn't. It's clear that no party works for the people. My life has not improved. COVID has not improved. Biden has not, stuck to any of his promises. I don't think anyone in Washington is really for working people, and that has been so clear this year.
That point on working people, you mentioned that phrase last time we spoke as well. Since December of 2020, and I think you were calling for more federal help at that time, there has been at least $2 trillion pumped into the economy. There have been childcare tax credits. When President Biden took office, he sent out those $1,400 checks. There's been all this money pumped in with the intention of helping working people. Are you saying it just hasn't made a difference in your life?
Certainly not in my life personally. There's also been a lot of money pumped to corporations, and they end up, buying stocks, and a lot of this money is just sitting and not doing anything. But I think it's pretty clear that, with all of the job shortages, all of the workers unionizing, that like a lot of working people are not happy in their current state, and clearly nothing done during the Trump administration or the Biden administration is making it better for them.
Sandy, do you feel that way? I mean, I'm looking at a $300 tax credit per month for each child, the $1,400 checks that President Biden handed out. I'm looking at all these lists of things that were pumped out there with the intention of helping everyday people. Do you agree with Chelsea that it just hasn't made a difference in your life?
It really hasn't made a difference at all, at least in my life. Sure, it may have helped some people temporarily, but ultimately, what everything's caused with all this money pumped into the economy, it's caused inflation. And everybody knows right now everything costs more at the store because they put in so much money so quick into the economy. It's a good idea in theory, but ultimately it didn't work out that way.
Well, economists would tell you a lot of that has to do with just the shocks from the pandemic. If you got a shot, if you went out and got the vaccine because it would help the economy, is that an effective selling point for you versus telling you you're going to get sick or not?
That doesn't help the price of bacon right now.
You're worried about the right now.
Right.
Mhm. Can I see a show of hands? Do any of you feel like the economy has gotten better in the past year? All of you are saying no, even though the jobs picture is brighter, even though the direction of the economy and recovery is happening. Are you all concerned about rising prices and inflation? Mildred, you told us you were better off, but on that point, you don't think you're better off.
Well, all you have to do is go to the grocery store or go to fill your car up at the gas stations and see the price of gas and see the price of groceries. I mean, I have a two-person household, and I go to the grocery store now. I'm paying double the amount that I was paying, even a few months ago. Everything's gone up. My granddaughter loves bacon, by the way, and I can barely afford bacon.
And whose fault do you think that is? I mean, it's the Federal Reserve that controls interest rates. It's their job to control inflation. Do you blame the president? Do you blame the central bankers? Or like Sandy, do you blame just Congress?
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination. I know the Federal Reserve is talking about increasing the interest rate, but I think it's a combination. Congress is worthless. You don't even want me to start on Congress.
I actually do, because this is one of the things in President Biden's first year. One of the things they say they are most proud of is this historic investment in infrastructure and the fact they got Republicans and Democrats to sign on to it. I mean, more than $1 trillion for roads and bridges. That's one of their chief accomplishments in the first year. Do you, even with that, you still say they're worthless?
I do, because there's so much more that needs to be done. And I have, my youngest son is a welder, so he's going to really benefit, with this whole infrastructure bill. But there's so much more that needs to be done.
Like what? What do you need?
I need for the price of bacon to go down. How about that? I need for gas prices to go down.
See, this is what go ahead.
I need for the government to stop spending so much money on things that are worthless.
Like what?
That are not going to benefit the people. I mean, they're sending out N95 masks, to cover people's faces. Somebody's making it and somebody's making money off of that. That, to me, that's crazy. They're also sending out COVID tests for people to do COVID testing at home. Waste of money. As far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of money.
The administration would say these are the things that will help keep the economy going, because then you won't have to stay home if you don't catch COVID. Your restaurant won't have to shut down. Your classroom, Jorge, won't have to shut down.
It takes 12 days to get the test in the mail, another 12 days to get your results. That's 24 days.
Well, these at-home tests are supposed to be quick, just a few minutes.
Here's what's wrong with our administration. They, like she was saying, here you are sending all these tests, sending the masks. So I'm going to put more money into this economy. I'm going to keep spending more money, and it's going to fix everything. No, inflation's going to hit 8-9%. We're going to be back to Jimmy Carter, and we know what happened to Jimmy Carter. You can't keep doing that. I almost feel like the administration came in and said, you know what, we're going to do everything opposite of what Trump did, because we didn't like what he did, and people hated him, and he was ugly, and he sent ugly tweets, and he was rude. So let's change the immigration policy. Let's do this. Well, that worked horribly, and I live in Texas, not good. Let's change his COVID strategy. That hasn't worked. Now COVID's even higher, and it's going to continue. I believe Jill said it's going to continue. We're still living, and it's going to mutate, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue. It's going to continue. It's not going to end. Just like the flu's never going to go away, COVID's going to be there. When Dr. Fauci allows these tests to happen, gain of function testing, and then tries to say, well, I never did that. And we have records that show he was part of a group that was allowing this testing to happen. So when they're playing with fire, we're going to get burned, and we got burned. And now we're having to pay the consequences, and they're up there trying to spend more money to cover their tracks.
Just to be clear on that, Jorge, you're not saying that this is a conspiracy by the government with the virus. Is that what you're repeating?
No, I'm saying
Okay.
Dr. Fauci's a liar. Dr. Fauci is part of the problem. He allowed gain of function testing. He was part of groups that were in that. He won't say it. He will kind of say it, but he won't come out and say, oh, yes, I was in that. If you ever listen to him and Rand Paul go back and forth, you'll get a good idea of who Dr. Fauci is. You cannot do those kinds of things and just assume, oh, well, eventually it'll go away and nobody will know it was us. There's trailers for everything.
Show of hands, because I'm picking up on something here. How many of you are angry? How many of you? Well, I'm hearing a variety of things and different reasons that people are frustrated right now. All of it, frankly, from you. That's one of the common themes I'm picking up. Everyone seems really frustrated. Chelsea.
The crazy thing, it's not just Biden, but like Mildred, Congress is just a total failure. Nobody's looking out for us. They're taking care of themselves. They're taking care of their buddies who have money and make money, but they forgot where they came from and who voted them in. And that's why I feel there's going to be a big change, because people aren't going to vote for the same old people. And that's Republicans and Democrats, because it's not going to happen.
Show of hands. Who thinks that you should be able to be out sick from your job and still get paid, or be home to take care of a loved one, or go give birth to a child and get paid on leave? That's not a universal thing. Sandy, why don't you think that you should get paid while you're on sick leave?
I guess because I work in the private sector, and that just doesn't happen. I mean, unless you're working for a big company, with over 100 employees type thing, it just really don't happen in the private sector. You get pregnant, you get knocked up, guess what? You're gonna have to take care of it yourself. And time off, that's unheard of in the private sector, at least in my industry.
Yeah, well, many corporations do provide paid leave. One of the things Congress has talked about is providing paid leave, Sandy, so that even you at your company could be out sick and still get a paycheck, or take care of a sick family member. Do all of you like that idea? Is paid leave something that would look like Congress understands you?
That would be awesome, I guess, for everybody. I work for myself, so I've never been entitled to any of these things ever.
Right.
And I just get to pay self-employment tax to cover it for everybody else. So, granted, that's my choice to work for myself. But if I want to get paid, I got to show up.
Margaret, I've been in the workforce before I retired for about 45 years. And I always had sick leave. Sometimes when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had to have some sick leave donated to me. But for the most part, I've always gotten paid when I was out. So, I think it's a good idea, especially for women who are having babies.
I think that's awesome if it would be across the board. But again, for people who are self-employed, we get nothing.
Right. That's why Congress and the Biden administration have been talking about making it a law to provide paid leave. The Trump administration talked about it too, but neither president was able to get it done.
There's no paid leave for self-employed people.
I understand that. That's why it's a proposed law, Chelsea. And that's why when I hear from you, you're not getting what you think the people need, working class people need. What do working class people need in your view?
I think paid sick leave, paid maternity leave at the very least. I mean, we're like the only developed country that doesn't have that for everyone. At my old job, I would have had to take sick days if I was having a baby, and I was only allotted like 11 sick days. That's simply not enough time. And with the Family Medical and Leave Act, like that's great that I would get that time off, but to not be paid for it, that's just like punishing me for, you know, having a child and like raising a family. That it's just absurd that that's not normal when it's normal in every other developed country in the world. So at the very least, you know, social programs that, you know, encourage people to have families and to not show up to work sick and infect all of your other workers. That's, I mean, that just makes sense to me to have that available.
And also to be able to take care of sick family members.
And again, none of that's available for people who are self-employed. We just get to pay taxes and we get nothing for paying our taxes. No maternity leave, no sick days, no take care of family members. You either show up and work and get paid, and it doesn't matter. You still have to pay your taxes. You get nothing.
But it's like that for other people too, whether you're self-employed or not. I was a taxpayer. I didn't get any of that either.
Right. Beth lives in the state of Florida, and in some states, they do provide paid leave. New York, California, Washington, D.C. So state by state, it's different. And the federal government is debating this right now. So it's interesting to get your opinions on that. We're looking at the midterm races. We're in one. And we are in an election year, 2022. Are all of you going to vote in those races? All of you. Do all of you feel like you're going to go to that ballot box and vote for a different party than in the last election? What's this, Jill?
That means I'm not going to vote all Democrat or all Republican because I live in Texas. I have never voted for Greg Abbott in my life, but he is doing things in our state that I am all aboard, you know, and I'm voting the cause. You know, I'm not going to vote a party. I'm going to vote the cause. I feel bad for President Biden. You know, I mean, he's only been there a year. He hadn't gotten much done. I don't know if the next 3 years will be any different. But when you ask the question about, you know, are you all mad? What I'm angry about as a healthcare worker is that you were going to give me 10 days to quarantine before, but because you need me to get back out there and keep your economy going, you only get 5 now. That's mixed messaging, and that's frustrating to us in the healthcare, because what that tells us, you don't care about us. You just want to get us back out there to keep the economy going. It's not really about us, and that's frustrating. So I'm going to vote my cause and maybe not vote Democrat or Republican. I'm going to vote for the person who's going to do or say that they're going to do what I need done.
And what is that thing that makes you passionate to vote on as an issue?
I don't want anybody telling me that I have to be vaccinated. I don't want anyone telling me that I'm going to lose my job if I don't get vaccinated. We have a governor that will not do that. He is standing his ground. That's important to me. Let's say if President Biden all of a sudden decided, okay, everybody's got to do it, he would never get my vote again, because when he ran, he said he wouldn't do that. And if he changes his mind now and he does, then that means I change my mind and I don't vote for him again.
Does anyone here support a vaccine mandate? Interesting. So I want to ask you, Sandy. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Margaret.
Go ahead.
I support a vaccine mandate for those who will jeopardize the lives of other people in the healthcare field. And I have a sister in the healthcare field who refused to get vaccinated. And we've had this conversation numerous times. And she's had 2 of her patients to die, you know, from COVID. I would mandate it in a heartbeat. for those in the healthcare field and those who are treating other people.
So you and Jill strongly disagree.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely. Because it shouldn't be any different from us than it is for anyone else. And we shouldn't be penalized because we've poured years of our life into taking care of people. And for someone to try to penalize us now is wrong.
And why is there no discussion about natural immunity? You all have been exposed 1,000 times to COVID people.
What does that mean to you, Beth? What do you think that signifies?
If you have natural immunity, you have T-cell immunity. It's been shown in many, many studies that it's actually even better than a vaccine. I don't understand why we're not talking about natural immunity. That's the way we have evolved and survived as a species for thousands of years.
But you know that this new variant is infecting people who've had different variants. So it's not like if you had COVID once, you won't get it again.
It's also infecting the vaccinated. It's also infecting, when my husband and I got COVID, we were with several people. The 2 people who had already had COVID did not get reinfected. The people who were vaccinated all got reinfected and had worse symptoms than the ones that weren't vaccinated. Their symptoms lasted 2 to 3 weeks. The rest of us were done in 2 days.
When did you have COVID?
October 6th of 2021. Yep.
Yep. So you recently went through this.
You know, but people need to realize it affects different people in different ways.
And
some people die, some people don't die, some people get sick and need to be on ventilators, some people don't.
And the CDC
it affects different people in different ways.
Yeah, and the CDC just said that 75% of the people who died had 4 or more comorbidities, meaning that they were diabetic, they had hypertension, they had high blood pressure, they had an autoimmune disorder, all together at one time. 4 or more comorbidities, and over the age of 65.
But Beth, explain that thinking to me a little bit, because the assumption, what you're saying is it's kind of your fault a little bit.
No,
What about people who are, and I'm interested from all of you who are unvaccinated on this, do you ever worry that you're going to come into contact with someone who's going through chemotherapy, who is really vulnerable? Do you ever worry that you're going to come into contact with a little kid who will get sick from this new variant? Do you think about those cases?
I probably need to say this because I don't treat those types of patients. Okay. What I do is very streamlined and defined. So I would not come in contact with someone with chemo, maybe a little kid, but if they come to me, they've got a whole different problem. And I can't really go into detail about what it is, but that would be the least of their worries. So that may explain a little bit more about why I feel the way that I do, because I'm not treating your everyday ordinary patient.
And most of us are not coming in contact with those people. And if you were, of course, you would take, precautions. But those are the people that need to be, quarantined or, sort of extra careful. The rest of us should be able to go on and earn a living and live our lives. This whole idea that we're just gonna, we all just want to kill grandma is ridiculous. We all take, precautions at home with older people. We all do that. But if we're not here as a generation to take care of our older people, both financially and emotionally, where are we as a society?
Margaret, I just want to say that you don't know who you're coming in contact with, and you're in the grocery store or you're shopping. I mean, when I went through chemo, I was one of the few patients who was able to go shopping. When I went through radiation, the same, I was able to go shopping. So I'm just saying, you don't know who you're coming in contact with.
Fair point there, Mildred. On the question of where we go next, what would make you change your vote in 2024? Do all of you, and I guess before that, do all of you believe that we will be in a better place by the next presidential election? You're all so frustrated. Do you see any light on the horizon? No.
I do, if we get some of those old people out of Congress and make some changes in government, absolutely.
But they're talking about running the same old people in 2024. Please help us all.
And I'm 70 years old, so you know.
This is where
Mildred,
we are
I just meant the
after
same
year
old names and
one.
same old ideas.
Mildred,
is
who are
where
you
we are
talking
after-
about? Who are you talking about when you say those same old people?
And I'm not going to call any names, but I mean, if you've been in Congress for 30 or more years, why? Why?
You're all pretty much.
Why aren't you mentoring some young person, smart young person to come in? I don't understand that. I don't understand people who stay in those positions forever. I mean,
Power.
it's same with the Supreme Court. I mean,
Mhm.
why are you there for life? I don't understand that one. I believe in term limits.
Mhm. Chelsea.
I pretty much agree with this. I also think it's just maybe slightly ageist, because if you look at like Bernie Sanders, who I supported in 2016 and 2020, he has stuck to his morals since the 60s. He has, not changed his ideology, not changed what he stands for, not changed his support for working people. Whereas you have other people who have become beholden to corporate interests and lobbyists, and it's very clear that they have become corrupted by the system. So those are the people that I definitely want out. And it's not an age thing necessarily. Yeah, a lot of the old people, they have that experience and that corruption, but it's also some of the people in their 40s and 50s as well. It's not, I don't necessarily think it's an age problem, it's just a corruption problem.
Mhm. Jorge, you had something to say there.
I mean, I agree. It's a lot of our politicians have lost their way, and they're just bowing to corporate interest. And like I said earlier, they just forgot where it is that they were coming from. You can't throw another government program and think it's going to fix something. You were talking about paid leave. That's up to your employer, and I feel horrible that self-employed have to take care of themselves. But what I see in education, you get 10 days leave, and I think it may have even cut back in some districts. A lot of our people use those 10 days the first 2 months, and then they're sitting there hoping that somebody's going to give them days, and now they don't even allow it anymore. And I think that's right. They waste their days because, well, I went out, or I'm going out of town, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You have to take care of your days. I'm 31 years now. I think I have 80, 90 days saved up. You know why? Because what if I get cancer? I want to have those days to take care of myself, take care of my family. I don't waste my days. I can't remember the last time I took a day off. Gets my wife upset, but you have to take care of those things so that when something does happen, you have those days to fall back on. And too many of our people abuse those programs and getting paid to stay home. Wow, that worked out well. Now we don't even have McDonald's open you can't. Our McDonald's here in Texas, we can't even go inside. Why? Because everybody's at home. They don't want to work. They are just used to staying at home.
I want to ask you though, you're talking about when there were lockdowns.
Oh no, I'm talking about today. People have gotten so used to staying home, and those beautiful checks that were coming to them kept them home. And fast food, and primarily fast food, is struggling to employ people because they don't want to work. So all they have working is the drive-through. You can't dine in, not because they're scared of COVID, it's because they find employees.
So do you think it was, and I know you supported President Trump, do you think it was a mistake for the Trump administration to pay people to stay home during the pandemic back in 2020? Because that's what I hear you talking about, that you're saying people don't want to work because they want to get paid for staying home.
I think we were scared about what was going to happen and we paid initially, but continuing to do something that isn't working is what do they say? If you keep doing the same thing and think things are going to change, then you're insane. We're insane to think that paying people is, oh, everything's going to work out. Just no. And now we're seeing we can't get people to go to work. There are so many vacancies here in even that people don't want to work. They'd rather stay home.
Margaret, let me be clear. Those checks that were sent out in 2020 were sent out because that particular president was trying to get reelected. That was the reason why those checks were sent out like that.
You're talking.
Not because it was scared, but because it was a reelection tactic.
Okay, it wasn't because
and politicians use a lot of that.
It wasn't because the people weren't able to go to work. Their work was closed down and they were not able to go to work at all. Just asking.
That's why I got mine, because we couldn't work at that time and we were closed. So
that's why my brother got his, because they were closed. They were physically not able to go to work.
Sandy, you've been quiet here. What do you think?
Well, I think that at that point, Trump was just doing what he possibly could. You're mandating everybody to stay at home. They can't go to work. A lot of places are closed. So I think Trump pretty much did the only thing he could. All right, well, you still got to pay your rent. You still got to buy food. I think Trump did the best with what he could.
In terms of your frustration, it's interesting because all of you are frustrated. Almost all of you are frustrated with Washington. But Sandy and Jorge, you both still seem to endorse President Trump. So when you want change, you don't seem to want to change him. Do you think he will be the Republican nominee in 2024? And would he have your vote?
I don't think he will be a nominee. However, if he does run, I'll definitely vote for him. Yes, but I don't see him as being a nominee. It's just he's got too many skeletons in his closet. He's got too much baggage. He's just too much against him. I don't see him running. But if he does run, I'll vote for him.
I see a Trump DeSantis ticket, and sorry, Florida, but DeSantis is amazing, just like Abbott. And Abbott squared, he's even more amazing. I would definitely vote for him. I think I want fiscal leadership. I want somebody who knows economics. I want somebody who goes against the grain and upsets people, friends of theirs that have money, and does things against the grain. Trump lost a lot of friends. All his friends in Hollywood, they loved him. And when he started, when he became president and did things that they didn't like him all of a sudden. It's not about making friends. It's about making good, sound decisions economically, immigration-wise, and for our national defense. It's
interesting that you see people getting upset with the former president as an indicator that he was effective.
It's an indicator that you rub my back, I'll rub yours. That's how Washington works. And when he didn't do it for them, they were upset. It didn't have to do with his tweets and this, that. It was policy. When you're cutting regulations and people are like, wait a minute, but that was helping me, but it's not a good policy. You don't make policy, you don't make decisions based on your friends. That's not called leadership. And that's called Congress, because that's what they do. And we don't need any more of that. We need people who are going to make good, sound decisions based on good economic policy. And we don't have that right now. And I think, honestly, I really think that they just didn't want to do what Trump did, and they changed it thinking it wasn't going to affect anything, and we see the results in 1 year.
For all of you who voted for President Biden, would you vote for him if he runs again in 2024? Show of hands. Chelsea's not so sure.
It really depends, but yeah, I think I would, but it depends on who else is running.
Would it be a President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris ticket? Would that persuade you in any way? Or should that ticket get shaken up?
Yes, he needs a different running mate. I think he'd be more effective. I've just never been a fan of hers in anything she's done, and I'm not really wild about the job she's doing now. I'm a firm believer when people get in office, get them in there, let them stay the whole 8 years. And if they can't get it done then they were ineffective. I think it's hard to put someone in there and they're trying to undo what the previous administration done. They've only been there a year. I just think that's a little unfair. So, I mean, if I needed to give him more time to get some of those things done, and if he showed me no, then, I know, yeah, he's not someone I need to vote for. Because like I said, even at the end of this administration, when it's 4 years done, I'm not going to judge him right now in a year. I'm going to give him a little more time.
Mm-hmm. Chelsea and Mildred, I'll let you have your last word on that. Mildred, you said you did think there needed to be some kind of change. What did you mean?
I think, well, I didn't say in terms of, well, maybe some of their policies and some of the decisions that they're making, they need to rethink. I don't know if I would vote for him again if there's somebody else that's running that would be a better candidate. I don't know yet. I'm going to have to wait and see. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. And Chelsea, you're also, jury is out for you. You gave kind of a tentative, maybe.
Yeah, so I personally don't share ideologies with conservatives or Republicans. So just on that, I would typically vote for a Democrat. But as I've mentioned before, it is clear that the Democratic Party does not work for people like me, in addition to the Republican Party. So I'm at a loss where, like, who the heck do I vote for? And, with the two-party system, I kind of feel like I have to vote for somebody, the lesser of two evils, which I don't enjoy doing. So unless it's a candidate who is, really for the people, isn't going to bow down to corporate interests, whoever, it will be a very reluctant vote from me.
Wow.
Margaret, can I just say that working people in this country and senior citizens are being squeezed, and something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. Working people and senior citizens are being squeezed. They got to do something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you all for spending your Friday night with us. And, it's good to see all your faces again. I hope that next time I see you, we're all feeling a little bit better. Not so depressed and frustrated, but I feel like that's the country right now. And thank you for sharing your experiences with all of us.